Hi, I'm Patrick Prince with the Tulsa World. I'm joined by Barry Lewis, our lead high school writer for the Tulsa World, here to talk a little high school sports. Barry, how are things going?
Things are going great, Patrick, as we're transitioning to some extent from football to basketball. We still have some football left to wrap up, although not on the playing field because those state championships ended last weekend. But we've got all world awards coming up and recruiting signing day. So still some football out there, but it's basically transitioning from football to the winter sports.
So we had our fair share of dramatic state titles in our area with a lot of teams, or several teams rather. What stood out to you the most?
On the first championship weekend at UCO, where the fifth of the five games, they saved the best for last, the 5A championship game, Collinsville-McAllister. That was the game that stood out the most as far as any one particular game. Wow, it was just everything you'd want in a championship game and more. It was, if you wanted to give someone an example of what high school football is all about in Oklahoma, that was definitely a game that you'd want to show, not just for what was on the field, because that was great. There's just such great enthusiasm in the stands, and which carried over later on, as Bill Haston wrote in a recent column about the parade they had in Collinsville at 1 a.m, coming home celebrating that community's first state football title. The football that was played that night was just at such a high level, such an exciting game, went down to the final play. It was everything you'd want in a high school football game and more. And that's what you expected. It was a 1 versus number 2 rankings. Both teams were undefeated, and it was one of those games that really lived up in more to expectations.
Yeah, that late night or early morning parade rather was a really cool deal. I'm glad. Didn't a reader tip Bill off to that?
Yes, yes, a reader did, and that just we had asked readers, if you got a good story tip, please send them our way, because we like getting tips.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'm glad we wrote about that. I wasn't planning on asking you about this, but we'll take a quick detour. The championship games at UCO, a lot of chatter about that. You like that?
I like it. I think it's a great venue, and for the most part, it's the perfect size. And they really want the championship games there, and it shows. It's just, it's a priority to them, or at least they make you feel like it's a priority with them. I mean, it remains to be seen. That's my big question mark with the state basketball championship games at OU, because in the past when they've hosted, it has been made to seem like, hey, they're doing you a favor. And basically most high school state championships that have been at OU, I've sort of got that vibe from them, like, hey, we're big time and we're doing you all a favor. Whereas at UCO, it's like, that you could tell that you were really wanted there. They would go out of their way, from a media standpoint, couldn't ask for a better setup. This was the best from a media standpoint, the best that it's ever been, covering the state high school football championships. And that's not just UCO, but that's also the OSSA media office, and led by Van Shea Ivan. And so that was great. And it just seemed like everyone who went there seemed to have a good time, whether their team won or lost. Obviously, if you win, you have a better time. It's just such a great venue. And so, and it didn't seem like there was many complaints this year. Maybe it's because they've had it there for a few years. Because I remember the first time our 2 East teams played and 6A won the state championship over there, there's people wondering, hey, why are we going over here? Why can't it be in Tulsa? And didn't really hear many complaints about that this time. Yeah, I heard a few, but really not much. And so maybe people are enjoying the setting there. I mean, it's not that tough a drive from the Tulsa area.
No, it's really not. I didn't get to go this year, but I went to a couple of games last year, and yeah, it seems like a great venue, great place to have it.
The parking's good, and they've upgraded some things. It was an improved venue over a couple of years ago when they first started having the championship games over there, because they learned from the experiences hosting it the first time. And I just thought it was a great venue.
Any big surprises in the playoffs this year, Barry?
The biggest surprise to me didn't involve any 2 Eastern teams. It was in 4A, not that Clinton beat Tuttle, but how decisively it was. I mean, it was a blowout, total rout. I never expected that when you had a 1 versus number 2 matchup. You never do. I thought if someone was going to blow out the other team, it'd be Tuttle, but that really surprised me a lot. And yeah, there were a few minor surprises, but just the domination that Clinton showed, that was probably the biggest surprise.
I wanted to ask you about Bixby, Barry. It wasn't that long ago when they would play Jinx early in the season and get, lose very handily, if you will, and then they'd go on this run and they'd win the state title. That's not happening anymore. They are proving they can beat the big boys, and they are a big boy now. What have they done to sort of take it to the next level where they are beating teams like Jinx, whereas a few years ago they weren't?
The Presley family moved there. That helped. I mean, that's not everything,
Sure,
of course.
sure.
That's a huge help. Besides the Presley family moving over there, and when you think of it, the Presley family in the football standpoint, that's the last 6 years. That's 6 years of the Presleys having a huge impact on the football program. That's quite a run, and that impact is not over from the Presley family from all indications, as the younger brother is coming in to the varsity next year. But other than that, Bixby's got a great off-season program, strength and conditioning, and basically it's just that the stability. Lauren Montgomery has been the head coach there for 12 seasons.
Yeah.
And when you have a head coach, at least in many communities, the way it should be work is that everyone is supposed to be on the same page in the community. And now that he's been there 12 years, when I say on the same page, starting from the youth football on up. And since he's been there 12 years, everyone's on the same page there. And they know how things are done, what's expected. And that stability is really huge. I think what you see from Coach Montgomery, he learned from Alan Trimble.
Yeah.
And I think you're just seeing a lot of what you saw in the Jinx program in the Alan Trimble era, in which kids carrying over now. I mean, this is a great era now in Jinx football, and Keith Riggs learned under Alan Trimble. I think you're also seeing that at Bixby.
Well, pivoting real quickly to Jinx, you never want to be the guy to replace a legend, but Keith Riggs has more than lived up to that so far. Would you agree with that?
Oh, my goodness. I think if a Jinx coach can be underrated, at least by people around the state, I think that's the case there. I mean, because he's following a legend, and it's so tough to follow a legend. But what a 4-year record he has compiled with two state championships and reaching the state championship game those other 2 years. So he's been in 4 state championships in 4 years as their head coach. And remember, that was a program that some people wondered when he took over, when's Jinx ever going to get to the state championship game again? Because they'd lost in the semifinals the previous year, basically the previous 2 years. They had fallen short of getting to the championship game. And people were saying, hey, is Jinx trending down a bit? But no, Keith Riggs has done a tremendous job. I mean, I think there were even some doubts the first couple of years when Coach Riggs became the head coach, especially maybe 2019. It was 2019 that there was. Remember when Bixby blew out Jinx 57-7, and all year long, all I heard was, "What's wrong with Jinx? What's wrong with Jinx?" And then at the end of the year, it's like, nothing's wrong with Jinx. They're in the state championship game, and they're within. It's a 1-score game. So you think the 2 state championship games they lost under Keith Riggs, they're both 1-score games. So think how close they are to 4 straight titles. So everything's going just fine in Jinx and Bixby.
Yeah, that's a real good point, Barry. What do you expect out of Braylon Presley at the next level?
More of the same. I expect big things from Braylon. And I think, what a high school career. He's just, to borrow an adjective from his head coach, Lauren Montgomery, he's just electrifying. Every time he touches the ball, you think something special can happen. And so I think it's just a matter of OSU using him the right way, which has been sort of a question mark at times with his older brother, Brennan. You're wondering, are they using him exactly the right way? Because when it seems like when he gets an opportunity for the most time, he can do something electric. So I expect huge things from Braylon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun watching those two brothers on the same field. In college, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Well, we're filming this on Tuesday. Obviously, signing day is Wednesday. So let's talk a little bit about recruiting, Barry. What Just kind of give us just a basic rundown of maybe some of the area's biggest kids and a little bit about those guys.
Um, well, all the signees, you can project some really nice college careers for them. They all have that potential, at least. Although, if history shows, that's not all going to come to fruition for all of them, or at least not at the school they originally signed with. Now that the transfer portal is having such a big impact, as we saw, like from 2 years ago when Savion Morrison signed with Nebraska, and I was expecting big things from him at Nebraska. It didn't work out there. Maybe it will at Kansas, where he just announced he's going to transfer to. So, but sometimes it takes that second school, or third school in some cases, for everything to kick in. But I really like Broken Arrow's two signees. RJ Spears Jennings signing with OU, and then Mariana Horn with Texas Tech. I think I've really got high hopes for them. RJ, they are just playmakers, and RJ can be a playmaker on both sides of the ball. He's going to be obviously starting off on defense at OU, but I think those two are just dynamic players. I think Jaden Rowe, Union's cornerback, is signing with OU, is a bit under the radar with some people.
Okay.
I think he can be great. And Max Brown, Lincoln Christian quarterback. Again, he's one of these under the radar people. It seems like if you can be under the radar and account for 62 touchdowns this year and lead your team to a state championship game 2 years in a row, he's committed to Central Michigan, and I'm expecting big things from him. And then Mason Gilkey, again, if Pawhuska, he's sort of under the radar. If you can be under the radar and have 160 or 170 career catches and do what he's done at Pawhuska, but maybe because, he is in Pawhuska and that's not in the Tulsa, in really the Tulsa, what a lot of people would consider the Tulsa Metro. Yeah, and he's done against Class A competition, but he's signing with OSU, and I think he's just got tremendous potential. As to C.J. Brown at Beggs, again, another player who, because he's against a smaller classification and not in what a school that many consider to be in the Tulsa Metro, Beggs, some people may be overlooking him, but I think he has a chance for a tremendous career at OSU.
Yeah, Mason kind of intrigues me, Barry. He's a big kid. He's 6'4". OSU has a pretty good reputation for developing receivers. I'm with you on him. I'm intrigued to see how he develops and what happens in Stillwater for him.
In both of those, with Mason and CJ, if it doesn't work out for him on the offensive side of the ball, they both have great skills defensively, as they've shown. And so they are just players. And so sometimes you see at the college level, you're recruited on the offensive side of the ball and they switch over to defense or vice versa, or you're used on special teams. And so I think those guys are just winners. They're players.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, Barry, let's talk just a little bit about basketball. What can you offer on basketball as like you said at the beginning, you sort of somewhat transition into boys basketball now?
Tulsa Memorial looks really good. Surprise.
Yes.
They may be the best boys team in the state, regardless of classification right now. They're just coming off a big tournament win down in Norman, and we'll be seeing them at the Tournament of Champions in a couple of weeks, and they'll be hosting their own classic or festival, however you want to call it. It's a round robin type of event this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with some good out-of-state competition. Or not necessarily out of state, but Collinsville and Sand Springs are also the two Tulsa Metro teams playing there.
Remind us real quick, Barry, the Tournament of Champions. When is that? And tell us some of the notable teams that will be there.
tournament champions, which will resume this year after it was canceled last year, pretty much canceled. It's December 27th through the 29th, Monday through Wednesday at the BOK Center. And you've got 8 of the top boys teams in the state and 8 of the top girls teams in the state playing. The games start at 9 a.m. each day, and they'll run to about 9 or 10 p.m. each day, and they're split into 2 sessions. It's first year at the BOK Center, so that'll be interesting. And on the boys' side, you've got Memorial, I would say, would be the favorite, but you've got Del City defending, or they won a state championship last year and defending TFC champion from 2 years ago. Jenks, Owasso, Victory Christian. Then Cashin's an intriguing team that we don't get a chance to see here often. Then you've got Hydro Weekly and Crossings Christian, the defending, which won the 3A championship last year. So it's a really loaded boys field, and the girls field is great as well.
Well, I'm very excited about this because Barry, you and I are going to be doing this once a week. Like I said, we're doing this on Tuesday. We'll probably continue doing it on Tuesdays. So we'll get together once a week, talk a little preps. You'll give us some knowledge, and it'll be good times. Barry, appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, Patrick. Thanks.
For more information, you can visit tulsaworld.com.